in the planet's history.
Certainly organisms were living in the deep sea, they were living in the water column, they were living in the sediment, on the sediment. And much of the western U.S. would have been a shallow marine habitat. Much of the middle of the U.S., Cincinnati, and much of the Appalachians would have been equivalent to anything we have today.
Reefs just like this span the globe. Their warm, sunlit waters are the perfect home for the planet's rapidly evolving life forms. At the other end of the food chain, a super predator rules the seas. A merciless killer feared by all. The straight nautiloid.
These are obligate carnivores. These are things that eat meat and always want meat. A 12-footer would be unbelievably scary.
The great white shark of its time, the nautiloid is a perfectly designed killing machine. With a strange twist, nautiloids swim far more efficiently backwards.
You're in the water with a nautiloid. You see the back of a shell. You have to go all the way around it to see the swimming.
Though nautiloids reign supreme, best feeding grounds. Facing off against a nautiloid, it's like a death match straight of science fiction.
I think you could probably sell tickets to a fight between those two.
But everything is about to change. Forever. The death rays have already penetrated our
slide. Look at it under a microscope. You'd see all kinds of tiny things teeming within that slide. And basically, those tiny things are the things that bigger things eat.
The life-giving sun burns the majority of these. Food joins the harsh sunlight, wreaking havoc on the plankton feeders. The surface water used to be a nursery for many tribalite species, but the larva can't survive the scorching UV rays.
Who did? The way you reproduced me.
The world may be collapsing around her, but she's determined to secure a future for her offspring. Her eggs will incubate for the next 8 months. Only time will tell whether this mother's efforts are in vain. The study of mass extinctions is one of the most controversial fields of fossils. The contradictory evidence know that mass extinctions occurred in the distant past. The Earth itself holds the...
Geologists began to really start collecting fossils for the first time. They realized that there were fossils that were present within rocks that weren't present above. But at some of the rock divisions, there would be wholesale disappearance.
These early geologists found was the first extinction. Modern scientists' legacy, scouring rock formations all over the world for clues to the true nature of these epic catastrophes. Formations are a record of the entire Ordovician consume the developing nautiloids. The species is in jeopardy.
Organisms are adapted for their local environment. If that environment changes, they're in trouble. If it changes extremely, they'll die. If it changes just a little bit,
that was the end for them.
Calcium carbonate makes up the shells of many of the animals that form a reef. And calcium carbonate...
All these long cone nautiloids crash diving.
Just year-round violent storm system. Future is looking bleak. The dead world. With no surface signs, their bodies pile up by the thousands, like casualties of war. 500 years after the gamma rays strike, a third of the world's animals cease to exist, is teetering on the brink of extinction. 450 million years ago, Earth endured its first mass extinction. A controversial theory contends that a lethal gamma ray burst slammed into Earth. tearing apart our atmosphere and transformed into a thick blanket of smoke in plummeting temperatures across the globe. "150,000 years after the death rays struck, life on Earth is in shambles. Surviving species live in constant hunger. Nautiloids were once the invincible rulers of, and over centuries it compacts into solid sheets of ice, immense, mile-thick glaciers that slowly march north across Gondwana, a supercontinent situated over the South Pole. The growing glaciers suck up vast amounts of ocean water, causing sea levels to drop by up to 200 feet.
The water was taken from the...
As the glaciers forge their way into the subtropics, huge icebergs appear. Beneath the surface, they threaten to destroy everything in their path. Is plowed over, causing massive devastation. A 250,000 years into the extinction, sea levels the reefs, transforming them into vast, barren deserts. Station to planet Earth. But this mass extinction is not over. As always, luck factors heavily into who will survive.
As we look at the Ordovician extinction, the one thing that really stands out, on 5 or 6 different continents, it has a very good likelihood of survival. If it's present only on one continent...
A surprising comeback, but they're a shadow of their former selves. They used to grow to over 20 feet. Now they're half that. They are far weaker than their ancestors and under constant threat of attack. Unlike the once dominant nautiloid, the Eurypterids have fared well through the extinction. The roles of predator and prey are now reversed. The oceans become a bloody killing field, but this time the Eurypterids dominate. In this changing world, these sea scorpions are exhibiting a curious new behavior. Once they make a kill, they often drag the carcass towards shore. And are even venturing onto land. An amazing adaptation born out of the will to survive.
The mass extinctions are like dumping have happened. I can guarantee that the types of animals and plants we have on the planet today would be different.
But in these same waters, there's another remarkable evolutionary trait emerging. A small pocket of fish, relatives of Astraspis, have developed a unique trait: movable jaws. They are called algae suckers. Fish are now moving their way up the food chain. Mass extinction transformed winners into losers, the hunted into hunters. Different roles, but the cycle of life and death continues. Life will continue. To everything's 3rd century BC. It is now 700,000 years after cosmic death rays triggered the first mass extinction. The planet seems to be shaking off the effects of the disaster,